Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Poker Vlog. It is Saturday, November the 25th. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. I am on the 2-3 list here at South Point. Back at South Point, if you can't tell by the parking garage. We are going to get in there and see if we can't make some things happen. So I'm going to stop off at the Starbucks at South Point here first and grab a caffeinated beverage. And then hopefully we'll get a seat pretty quickly. We'll jump into the 2-3 streets and hopefully we will run it up. So I will see you all at the table. We just sat down at the table. We've been here for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and we pick up Queen 10 of spades in the low jack. Effective stacks are about $500 here. I raise it up to 15. The button comes along for 15, and this invites the big blind in as well, who puts in the call for 15. Going 3 ways to a flop: king, deuce, 10, 2 clubs. Gives us second pair, but a pretty draw-heavy board here with straight draws and flush draws out there. When the big blind checks it over to me, I think we can continue firing here, given that we've got the pre-flop initiative. I go ahead and make it 30 to go. Button thinks 30 is a fair price and puts in the call. Big blind quickly gets out of the way, so we are heads up now to a turn. And the turn is a blank. It is the 5 of hearts. Shouldn't change anything. The button player is a very tight reg. He can have some king X here in his range, but he can also have a lot of draws here. So I fire out for 70. He thinks for a bit, but decides to go ahead and let his cards go, and we take down this first pot to get the session started. The hand that looks good but never wins, the Anna Kournikova, the ace-king off suit in the cutoff. $6 button straddle is on. I raise it up to 20. The player on the button puts in the $20 call, and everyone else gets out of the way, so we're going to go heads up here to a flop. The player on the button is a local Las Vegas pro who usually plays 3-5 and 5-10. For whatever reason, he's sitting at the 2-3 table, and we are heads up with him at the moment. So when I see a flop of 7-4-3 with 2 diamonds, I decide to check. I think this is going to be better for his range than my range. But when he fires out 15, I think I can float here and see what he wants to do on the turn. We could still have the best hand with our ace-king. I check it over when the 5 of hearts peels off, and he checks back, and we see a board pairing 5 of spades on the river. I decide to check again, and he does not decide to check. He puts out a $50 bet here. Now, this player is certainly good enough to have some bluffs here. He's going to have hands like ace-queen, king-queen, ace-jack, king-jack, some diamond draws like 9-8 of diamonds or 10-9 of diamonds or even jack-10 of diamonds, hands like that he would turn into a bluff here. But I also think he's good enough to have some value bets here with hands like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s. He might re-raise pocket 10s pre-flop, but he might call in position as well. So not sure if there's any merit to hero calling in this spot. I think our ace-king can be good some of the time. But let me know what you all think in the comments below. Curious to get your feedback on this spot. If you think this is an easy hero call or if it's just a fold. I do decide to let my cards go here, and we move on to the next hand. All right, and that next hand is an upgrade. We look down at the Cowboys, the pocket kings. We are under the gun +1. No straddle on this time, just the 2 blinds. I raise it up to $12, and it folds over to the button, who puts in the $12 call. Small blind decides to come along as well, so we are going to end up going 3 ways here to a flop. which seems to be the case on a lot of these flops. Multi-way flops seem to be a thing at these mid to low stakes. This one's not too bad though. Jack 5-3 with 2 clubs. We do have the king of clubs in our hand. Definitely want to get some value from any player that's got a flush draw or a jack, so I fire out a continuation bet here of $25. And unfortunately, both players decide $25 is too much money. They let their cards go into the muck, and we end up taking down a small pot here with our pocket kings. All right, about a half hour after the pocket king's hand, I've been folding, but I look down at ace-jack offsuit in the cutoff, and that's certainly going to be good enough to raise, especially after we see 2 players in middle position and in the hijack put in the $3 call. Want to be isolating these weaker players when they limp, so I raise it up. I make it 15 to go. Button quickly gets out of the way, and the small blind is going to penalize me for trying to isolate the limpers. He raises this up. He makes it 45 to go. This is the first hand this player had played after being at the table for about an hour or so. So I think we can give him credit here for a hand. Everyone else gets out of the way, and I decide to go ahead and get out of the way here as well. About another 30 minutes passes before I look down at ace-10 offsuit in the low jack. No players put in the $3 call this time, so it's just folded to me, and I decide to go ahead and raise this up as one should with this hand in middle to late position. I make it 12 to go. Cutoff gets out of the way. Button gets out of the way. Small blind decides to put in the call, and the big blind decides to fold. So we are heads up to a flop. Flop is pretty safe in my opinion. Doesn't look too scary to me. We see the king 3-3 rainbow. Small blind checks. I'm going to be continuation betting on this board. I fire out about a half pot size bet of $15. And the small blind pretty much instantly calls this $15 bet. So we are going to be going off to a turn card here. And the turn card is a good one for us, I would say. It is the beautiful ace of spades, giving us top pair now. So we're going from bluffing to value betting. When the small blind checks again, I make it a little bit larger this time. I go $35. He quickly folds, unfortunately, so we don't get any additional value here with our top pair, and we end up taking down a small pot here. All right, this is isolation 3-betting gone wrong. We've got a weak player in middle position who's been playing 100% of her hands and making very small pre-flop raises like this one to $7. I decide to re-raise this and make it 30 to go, trying to get heads up with her with a hand that I think is well ahead of her range. And that is indeed what happens when she puts in the call. We are off to a flop heads up when everybody else folds. Flop is pretty good for us too, giving us an open-ended straight draw along with a backdoor flush draw. King, queen, 7 rainbow. She quickly checks. I'm going to be firing out here, trying to take this pot down now. I make it 35 to go. And she again pretty quickly calls, doesn't think too long about it at all. So we are off to a turn. I'm hoping for a spade, a 9, an ace, anything that would improve us here and give us more equity. But unfortunately, we see the 5 of hearts, which is not a great card to continue bluffing on. So when she checks, I quickly just decide to check back here and go to the river. And unfortunately, we completely brick when we see the 6 of spades. Now she bets $30 into a pot of $125. I think about making a move here and raising, thinking I might be able to get her off of any of her queen X hands, but looking at her stack size, she's only got maybe 115 remaining after her $30 bet. I just don't think she's folding here based on that stack size. She's going to call off with any of her king or queen X hands. So I think better of it, and I just decide to let my cards go and send them into the muck. All right, we've got king 10 of clubs and the hijack in this one, and we see a raise from under the gun. Raises it up to $12. Our friend in middle position who's been playing 100% of hands puts in the $12 call. I put in the $12 call. Cutoff gets out of the way. Button decides to come along. Small blind gets out of the way, and the big blind puts in the call as well. So we're going to go multi-way here to a flop. And the flop is a little bit scary, gives us a good hand, but at the same time, it's a very connected board. We see king, 3, 4, all spades on the flop. Small blind quickly checks. The original raiser checks as well. Middle position player checks, and I have not checked. You're going to see the button tap the table here to indicate that he's checked, and this is going to put the dealer into a position where he almost puts out the turn card, but I stop him and indicate that I have not taken any action. He then puts the action back on me, rightfully so, and I go ahead and bet $35 here. Button quickly folds, small blind folds, the original raiser folds, and it's back over to our weaker player in middle position, who I'm hoping is going to put in a call, but she does decide to let her cards go, and we take down a small pot here with our king 10 of clubs. All right, I've been a little bit card dead, not getting much action. It had been an hour and about 15 minutes before I pick up pocket 10s in middle position. I raise it up to 12, and the button decides to put in the call, and everyone else gets out of the way. So we are off to a flop heads up here, hoping for some low cards that don't scare the action away and make my pocket 10s no good. But that's not what we see when we see ace 4-3 with 2 spades. I think I can continue to represent strength here. I bet out for 16. The player on the button pretty quickly calls 16. We are off to a turn, and I think I'm pretty much done with this hand at this point. We see the jack of diamonds. I check. Player on the button quickly checks, and we see the flush completing, straight completing 5 of spades. I check. Button quickly shoves all in, and I quickly release my cards. All right, I go crazy with this hand, so buckle up. This one is going to be a wild ride. I've got ace 9 of hearts on the cutoff. Player in the hijack puts in the $3 call. I raise this up to 15. Button quickly gets out of the way, and the small blind gets out of the way. But the big blind puts in the call, and the limper in the hijack puts in the call. So we're going multi-way to a flop, which is pretty damn good for our hand. We see jack 10, 8 with 2 hearts, giving us a straight draw and a flush draw. Better yet, the player in the hijack donk bets $30. I think I could raise here or just call, and I elect to just call. And the reason I do is I know the player in the big blind. I've played with him before. He will go bonkers with a one-pair hand like ace-jack, king-jack, or queen-jack, and with worse draws as well. And he does quickly raise this up to 130, and the hijack snap calls his $100 raise. Now the action is back on me, and I have a question of whether or not I want to just call here. I'm getting almost 3.5 to 1 on a call, or if I want to just go ahead and get it in on the flop. I don't think either of these players are going to be folding, and we stand to triple up and win a big pot if we do hit either of our draws. So I think about my options here for a bit. I have the big blind on a one-pair hand, and I have the hijack on another draw, a straight draw or a flush draw. He could have some of my outs, but I still think it's worth it going ahead and just getting it in on this flop, and that's what I decide to do. I jam it all in. Player in the big blind doesn't seem too thrilled with it, but he just goes ahead and makes the call. Hijack thinks for about 20 seconds, but then makes kind of a shrug of the shoulders and puts in his remaining, I think it was about $200 remaining for him behind. So we're going off to the river, turn and the river, with $1,200 in the middle. Let's see if we can't connect with any of our outs here. Turn gives us a pair. It's the ace of diamonds, but the river is the 2 of spades. The big blind turns over ace, jack for 2 pair. The hijack doesn't show, and unfortunately, we end up losing this $1,200 pot. All right, it is the next day, Sunday, November 26th. It is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I had to sleep on that hand a little bit before I recorded the outro. So the numbers, we were in the game for 500 and we were out of the game for $0. Easy math. Very easy math. And all of it came as a result of that last hand, which I was beating myself up over a little bit last night, just because we only had roughly $60 or $65 invested in the pot before I went crazy and went all in. And I don't really know if I need to invest another $400 on that hand in a multi-way pot. And the guy to my right in the hijack more than likely had some of my outs. So I probably could just get away from it on the flop after it was raised to $130. But that's not what happened. So we're just going to have to live with it and not be results oriented. I still think my range assessment was pretty accurate, and we had a lot of equity, plenty of equity, I think, to go for it. So that is that. Not the result we were looking for, not the result we were hoping for. Would have been wonderful to spike a queen, a 7, or a heart and walk away with a big win, but that's not what happened. So we will get them next time, as they say. So if you like the vlog and you like the hands, please do hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe bell. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and it helps out the channel a lot. So please do subscribe to the channel. As it stands today, we're at 986 subscribers. We've got 14 more to get to 1,000. So let's make that happen. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. If you would like to get in touch with me, just leave a comment below and I will get back to you. Thank you all so much for the support. I will see you in the next episode. Peace.